Welcome back to Satoshi Economy, honest global crypto news and info, where the message is more important than the messenger. Pardon me, you got a frog in my throat. I'm down with a little bit of cold here, but I'll get through this. I'm doing okay. 2020 direction of crypto. What I'm going to do today is discuss 5 different dynamics of the Bitcoin and crypto market, which will give us an idea of the price direction. I really do believe that, of the near future to long-term future of Bitcoin especially. But I'm not one to make price predictions, but the 5 dynamics, which I'll discuss, they'll shed light on some of the underlying and peculiar characteristics of Bitcoin, of the Bitcoin and crypto markets, and they'll give us a deeper understanding and a better idea of the true direction of price discovery for Bitcoin. But one in particular, I'll just start with the first one. I heard a quote by Bill Gates. He said, and I quote, "Most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And I bring that up because Bitcoin right now is over 10 years old. It's 11 years now. Came live into the world on January 3rd, 2009. The first transaction was in May of 2011 for 2 Papa John's pizzas. They were sold for 10,000 Bitcoin, and that's a lot of money nowadays. But in 2012, the low for the whole year of Bitcoin was $4. So that was when we began to see some price discovery. But when you think forward 10 years, I tried to think forward 10 years, and one thing that I think about, there's kind of a classic discussion in the ecosystem of, well, what if Bitcoin reaches the same market cap as gold? And that's a reasonable thing to think about, because gold is a store of value. It's been for 5,000 years. It's very, very, very popular. Well, the gold market cap, they say it's about 8 trillion. But what if in 10 years, let's say the market cap of gold is 10 trillion. What if the market cap of Bitcoin is 10 trillion? That would essentially mean that today's price, about 8,000, would go 67x. In other words, the price of Bitcoin would be well over 500,000, closer to 550,000 per Bitcoin. And when you think further that, see, the thing we got to think about too is, when things begin to be priced in Bitcoin and not dollars, well, then there'll be much larger market cap. Well, how much is your house worth? Oh, $400,000. Well, no, it's worth 1 Bitcoin. Well, when they begin to value things in Bitcoin, it'll increase the marketability, the market cap of it. So it's just insane to think where the price discovery will go beyond 10 years. I'm going to discuss the Gates quote, a research finding by Rhthym, which has to do with HODLers. Number 3, hunger in Bitcoin. Number 4, the huge recent trend of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. And number 5, the Trifecta Tsunami of global population, mobile phones, and the internet, or internet money also. But when you think about the Gates quote, that's kind of where I went with the eventual 10 years down the road for Bitcoin. But number 2, yesterday I saw a research finding by Rhthym. It's gained a lot of traction in the media, but assuming that it's true, and they have blockchain verifiable information, so I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that what they found was true. But the interesting point that I want to mention is that they found that in the last 1 year, 12.8 million Bitcoins have not moved from their wallets. Now, this is absolutely huge. Now, about 4 to 6 million of those, let's say 5 million, we know are very likely will never be accessible. The owners of those 5 million Bitcoins lost their private keys. They're lost forever. So of the 12.8, we'll say 13 million Bitcoins which have not moved from their wallets in the past year, we'll say there's about 8 million of them are in the market. They're HODLers. Hang on for dear life. HODLers of last resort. They're people who, throughout the entire year of 2019, did not move their Bitcoin. This is very valuable information. When you look at the market of 2019, it started out about 3,200, 3,400 of Bitcoin. It doubled right away. And then at the end of June, it went to about 13,000. And then, since then, as we all know, it's declined. It's gone continually. At the end of the year, last 60 days or thereabouts, it stayed between 6,700 and 7,600. Now today it's playing with 8,000. But when you think that 8 million Bitcoin's worth in wallets held their position in a essentially a very volatile environment, that is huge. That is very valuable information. In other words, the bottom line is there's a ton of people or entities or organizations, corporations who really believe that the price appreciation of Bitcoin will go much further. It's really a valid dissemination of the information there. So that's a very good positive for the market. Number 3, just thinking about hunger in Bitcoin, we saw how in Venezuela, which has been in the news for a couple of years about the extremely high inflation rate of the Bolivian bolivar, the Venezuelan government launched it's called the petrodollar, a digital currency which has had little to no success. But what they did earlier this year is Burger Kings are now accepting Bitcoin for whoppers. Now that's notable news. Absolutely, it's notable. But when you think more deeply about what's really going on here, you go into a volatile environment, economic environment, or a place where there's a lot of unrest, and you walk into the restaurant and say, hey, let me use my debit card. Oh no, the system's down. Well, let me use the Bolivar. We're not going to accept those here. But we take Bitcoin. Wow. People will do anything to get food when they're hungry. And basically they're accepting Bitcoin for food in Venezuela. And this is just one itsy-bitsy, teeny-weeny little minuscule great example of the incredible use case, just one of the use cases that Bitcoin and crypto stand for. They disintermediate a lot of different monetary dynamics and enable people independently to choose something that is universal. So that's a very, very powerful thing. Number 4, just the recent trend of CBDCs. Let's see, China says they are going to come out with the DCEP. I think they're probably going to begin some beta in Q2. But I saw yesterday Baidu, which is a tech giant in China, headquartered in Beijing. They say they launched their own digital currency. Now, this is a corporate currency, but listen, people, if you've had your head in the sand, well, if you haven't heard this, hear it now. I've been talking about this for the better part of a year now, over half a year. Central bank digital currencies and fiat currencies. What we have now available is not just fiat currencies. We have corporate currencies. The Baidu. Have you heard of Facebook Libra? Yeah? Well, that's a corporate currency. It hasn't launched yet, but that's what's going to be happening. They're going to launch. Maybe in a much smaller market than they initially planned or hoped for, but it's going to launch. And China, or One Nation, they announced in a public announcement that it's because of Libra that they're moving forward with plans to ramp up the urgency of launching the DCEP. But today we have fiat currencies, we have corporate currencies, we have digital, central bank digital currencies, and we have people's currency, Bitcoin. So the world is changing, and the future is going onto the internet. But the central banks don't want to put their currency digital or onto the internet because when you think about this, let's say you have the Bolivian peso, and this week, I don't want that. I want to switch it out for the U.S. dollar digital currency. Well, it disintermediates, or it just really endangers the economic market of Bolivia and people's whim. God forbid there's a tsunami or an earthquake or a tidal wave or hurricane or what have you that really affects the local market. People, see what I'm saying? It really makes every nation's currency vulnerable. So they don't want to do that, but they're going to be doing it, and China is going to be launching theirs, and they're going to do beta. We're going to find out. We're going to have to wait and see how everything is affected. But with every single nation that launches their own digital currency, what it means for the American dollar, it's going to diminish its effect and power, and it's going to endanger the hegemony, or it's going to affect the dollar hegemony all around the world. So that's something that is going on. So Number 5, the trifecta tsunami of global population, mobile phones, and internet money. The global population took millennia to get to 2.5 billion in 1950. Then it took only 67 years to gain 5 billion. In 2017, global population reached 7.5 billion. Coincident with that was the improvement of technology and innovation, mobile phones. And in that year, there was discussion about what you might call the saturation of the market of global mobile phones. In other words, everybody's got them, and with more and more people using smartphones, it just, I mean, people don't even have to, hey, hang on a second, take out their computer or go to their house and open up their laptop. Hey, it's right here. It's with their mobile phone. They started using cell phone minutes in Kenya for money, and that was like over 10 years ago. I think that was even before Bitcoin. And so money in today's technology can take on, I mean, people were going to the market and say, hey, I'll trade you 10 minutes worth of my mobile phone minutes for that bunch of bananas. So with technology, it's just much more available, and with the recent, with Bitcoin coming on board, of course, all of these things, they just really bode well for the eventuality of the price appreciation of Bitcoin and cryptos. And what I'm talking about is not financial advice, but because I'm not a financial advisor, it makes sense to possibly think about what I'm saying. I'm just someone who's just like you. I do research, and I do research for myself and my family, but then I report on some of the findings that I make. And I realize that everybody's different. I mean, if 10 people in a row all had the same identical information, economic information, all 10 of them would decide and choose differently the path that they would take with financial investments. I understand that, but the fact of the matter is that the world is changing. It's going, economy is disintermediating the way that that the world treats money. What we've seen for 300 and 400 years is that nations, what they do is they centralize the control of money by centralizing the control of the currency creation and interest rates, and also in conjunction with that, they centralize the control of the media, the propaganda. And those two forces together it minimizes the center of power and riches, and really leaves the common people outside of that. Well, what's going on right now, right in front of our faces, is that with the internet and all these other things that I mentioned, it's disintermediating 400 years at least of the way that money has operated and the dynamics of how money operates in the world. And look, just decide for yourself what you're going to do. I really appreciate your listening to this, and I hope that you really check out the other videos on my channel. I've got a few playlists on there. There's one on a list of videos I've done for the Libra coin, which is huge. It's really brilliant and genius. It is worthy of knowing more about. I've got a Crypto in a Minute video series, or a podcast series there, where I've got, I think, 45 of those in there right now as we speak. They're just a minute and a half little encapsulations of things that are going on, things of interest to me that you might like. So just check it out. Please check the notifier bell. I'll appreciate that. I really want to wish you a very fortunate and happy New Year for you and your family. And until next time, peace.